NASA has expressed that currently is the ideal moment to direct attention toward Venus, following new discoveries about the potential for life on the planet. If you were to glance back at NASA's records from the 1960s, you would see that the organization referred to Venus as a planet from hell. Meanwhile, Mars had emerged as a more promising destination for exploration. Such harsh labeling of distant planets was common during the intense space race era. The Soviet Union was also deeply involved in sending costly missions to Venus, a planet that seemed almost devoid of any potential for life. Nevertheless, the Soviet space program did not abandon its Venera missions until the collapse of the Soviet Union. Thanks to astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, we finally understand some of the reasons behind their interest. Join us as we delve into the declassified images of Venus captured by the Soviet Union. The collapse of the Soviet Union was significant in many ways. Not only did it alter the global political scene, but it also buried many secrets. The Soviet Union was known for its love of secrecy, from running one of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies in the world to staying silent about possible extraterrestrial encounters. As a result, the former superpower harbors many secrets. In truth, before the United States took the lead in planetary space exploration, the Soviet Union was at the forefront of the space race. While the USSR's space program included both successes and failures, its primary focus was always on Venus, the mysterious and hostile planet. In Russian, Venus is known as Venera, which also became the name of the Soviet mission that spanned from 1961 to 1983. This occurred during the same period when the United States was focused on its efforts to reach the moon. The Soviets strategically chose to allocate their resources elsewhere during the space race. It is not entirely strange that the Soviet Union placed so much emphasis on Venus. Were they possibly viewing the planet as a potential military base? Or were they perhaps interested in colonizing it after investigating any possible life forms? The true motivations behind their obsession with the planet remain unclear, as the Soviet Union was deeply entangled in the Cold War, and their objectives were not openly disclosed. Much of what we know about the Soviet missions to Venus comes from declassified or unarchived documents. Even then, it is challenging to pinpoint the specific reasons behind their persistent efforts. The Soviets didn't just land on Venus once, twice, or even 3 times. In total, they launched 28 expensive rockets targeting the planet, with 13 entering Venus' atmosphere. Of those, 8 missions successfully landed. These ambitious and complex missions positioned the Soviet Union at the forefront of space exploration. The United States, although a close competitor, was more focused on satellite technology and innovative infrastructure, while the Soviets concentrated on investigating the possibility of life on distant planets. Their fascination with Venus was rooted in their pursuit of scientific discovery and technological superiority. Most history books might not tell you this, but the Soviet space program was the first to send a probe into the atmosphere of a planet beyond Earth. It also became the first nation to achieve a soft landing on another planet. The USSR was the first to send back images and sound recordings from another planet's surface. While these achievements are often overshadowed by later American accomplishments, they were pivotal milestones in space exploration. In 1992, the Soviet Space Agency was formally disbanded following the dissolution of the USSR. It was later re-established under the new Russian name Roscosmos. Much of the historical records were either lost or destroyed during this transition, which is why many aspects of the Soviet space program remain shrouded in mystery. Although we may never know for certain why the Soviets launched so many spacecraft into Venus' atmosphere, it is likely that their decision was influenced more by cost-effectiveness than pure scientific curiosity. While the Soviet Union was certainly interested in exploring Venus, they were also looking for the presence of water, solar radiation, and other environmental characteristics. Without these missions, it would have been difficult for scientists to understand Venus' extreme temperatures and dense atmosphere. Today, many astronomers still argue that Venus is too hostile to support life. With temperatures high enough to melt lead and an atmosphere thick with carbon dioxide, it is easy to dismiss the idea of life existing on Venus. However, to ignore the pioneering contributions of the Soviet space program is to erase a significant chapter of history. For the Soviets, Venus was worth investigating, even if only to fuel the space race. Exploring planets like Mars was not entirely off the table, but it was a far more expensive undertaking than launching missions to Venus. The vast distance between Earth and other celestial bodies was a significant factor in determining where to focus resources. Venus, on average, is only 40 million kilometers away from Earth, while Mars is around 250 million kilometers away. This dramatic difference in distance explains the higher costs associated with Mars exploration. Furthermore, the United States' global economic dominance made exploring Mars more feasible for them than for the Soviet Union. Some reports suggest that Soviet missions to Venus were unstable and faced significant technical deficiencies. Many of their spacecraft were not designed to cover vast interplanetary distances, and there were numerous instances of lost communication with rockets. Given these challenges, it makes sense that the Soviet space program would choose missions to a closer planet that offered a greater probability of success. However, to focus only on the technical difficulties would omit the larger story behind the Venera missions. At the time the Soviet program began launching missions to Venus, the United States was still largely focused on reaching the Moon. NASA's Venus missions during the 1960s were plagued by failures, leading to a phenomenon known as the Venus curse. Every time NASA launched a probe toward Venus, it ended in disaster. This is when the Soviet Union saw an opportunity to capitalize on American failures and achieve a significant victory in the space race. The Soviets took advantage of NASA's struggles, intensifying their efforts to explore Venus. They saw Venus as a key milestone in the space race, a planet that the United States had overlooked. Despite their limited resources, the Soviets persisted, launching a series of successful missions to Venus. In contrast, NASA's focus on the Moon led to a divergence in the two nations' space programs, with both sides eager to outdo the other. The name hellish planet was attached to Venus in popular media, a term often used by the United States to downplay Soviet accomplishments. This negative image of Venus did not deter the Soviets. The Soviet space program's objective was to demonstrate its prevalence over the United States. Despite the fact that the Soviet Union's missions to Venus are not as widely recognized today, they were profoundly ambitious and advanced for their time. The Venera missions marked the beginning of the space age. Beginning in the 1950s, the Soviets started developing the technology to send spacecraft to Venus. Over the next 30 years, they built and launched a series of interplanetary probes as part of the Venera program. Throughout this period, the Soviet Union dedicated significant resources, making substantial strides in space exploration. By the mid-1960s, the Soviet Union had advanced far enough to launch Venera 3, the first artificial probe to enter Venus' atmosphere and successfully interact with the planet's surface. This achievement intensified the space race between the two superpowers. Unlike the US's often troubled missions to Venus, the Soviet program continued to progress despite several technical setbacks. The USSR's ability to design and launch increasingly sophisticated rockets allowed them to maintain momentum, even as NASA struggled with its Venus missions. During the 1970s, the Soviets launched two probes, Venera 4 and Venera 5, in what is considered one of the most exciting decades in space exploration. These dual launches allowed the Soviets to gather data from Venus' atmosphere and surface. Venera 4's success led to the continued development of more advanced spacecraft, including Venera 5, which was designed to collect unique data about Venus conditions. The 1970s saw the Soviet Union enter the most advanced phase of the Venera missions. Venera 7, launched in 1970, was the first spacecraft to transmit data from another planet's surface, providing crucial information about Venus' temperature and pressure. Later missions, such as Venera 13, captured color panoramic photos of the planet's surface, offering unprecedented insights into Venus geology. Despite some setbacks and failures, the Venera missions were instrumental in expanding our understanding of Venus and space exploration as a whole. During the 1980s, Venera 13 surpassed previous missions in complexity, capturing detailed images of the planet's surface. By the time the Soviet Union ceased operations in the early 1990s, the Venera program had achieved far more than anyone had anticipated. The legacy of the Venera missions lives on today as Roscosmos and NASA prepare for the joint Venera-D mission, scheduled for the late 2020s or early 2030s. This new mission aims to study Venus' atmosphere, geology, and history to uncover signs of past or present habitability. The Venera missions paved the way for future missions to Venus, Mars, and beyond. Their achievements continue to shape the future of space exploration. The upcoming Venera-D mission, a collaboration between Russia's Roscosmos and NASA, represents an exciting new chapter in the ongoing exploration of Venus. Set to launch in the late 2020s or early 2030s, this mission will focus on studying the planet's atmosphere, geological history, and potential signs of past or present habitability. The spacecraft will be equipped with an orbiter, a lander, and possibly an inflatable structure designed to explore Venus in unprecedented detail. The Venera-D mission not only aims to deepen our understanding of Venus but also highlights the enduring legacy of the Soviet-era Venera program, which remains one of the most ambitious and significant space exploration efforts ever undertaken. As we look to the future, the lessons learned from the Venera missions remain relevant to current and future planetary exploration missions. The technological advancements achieved by the Soviet space program, such as the development of durable materials capable of withstanding extreme temperatures and pressure, have been essential for subsequent missions to Venus, Mars, and other planets in our solar system. These innovations in spacecraft design and instrumentation laid the foundation for modern space exploration and continue to inform mission planning, technology development, and operational strategies. The impact of the Venera program extends beyond the scientific and technological realms. During the Cold War, the space race was not only a battle for scientific achievement but also a way to assert ideological dominance. For the Soviet Union, success in the Venera missions demonstrated its technological prowess and was a significant marker in its competition with the United States. The global community closely followed these achievements, recognizing the Venera missions as an essential part of humanity's expanding understanding of the universe. Each milestone, such as Venera 7's soft landing on Venus in 1970, was not just a scientific triumph, it was also a powerful political statement. The success of the Soviet Venera missions was not without challenges, however. Operating in Venus' hostile environment presented enormous technical hurdles, including extreme temperatures reaching up to 450 degrees Celsius (842 degrees Fahrenheit), intense atmospheric pressure, and a thick, corrosive atmosphere primarily composed of sulfuric acid clouds. These conditions made it incredibly difficult for spacecraft to survive long enough to collect meaningful data. Nevertheless, the persistence and ingenuity of Soviet scientists and engineers were critical to overcoming these obstacles, enabling the successful collection of vital data about Venus' surface and atmosphere. The achievements of the Venera missions were instrumental in understanding Venus' harsh conditions, from its scorching surface temperatures to its dense, toxic atmosphere. These missions provided invaluable insights into the planet's extreme climate, dominated by carbon dioxide, as well as its geological features, including its volcanic plains and mountainous terrain. The panoramic images captured by later missions, such as Venera 13 and Venera 14, allowed scientists to further explore Venus' surface composition, shedding light on the planet's geological history and its potential for past volcanic activity. One of the most significant contributions of the Venera missions was their ability to capture the first images of Venus' surface, offering a glimpse into a world previously shrouded in mystery. These photos revealed a rocky and alien landscape, vastly different from anything on Earth. The success of the Venera program demonstrated that, despite the planet's unforgiving environment, it was still possible to gather valuable scientific data, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and expanding our understanding of the solar system. However, not all missions were successful. Some Soviet spacecraft failed to reach Venus or experienced technical malfunctions that prevented them from transmitting data back to Earth. The challenges of operating in such an extreme environment, coupled with the technological limitations of the time, meant that some missions could not achieve their objectives. Nevertheless, the determination of the Soviet space program in the face of these challenges is a testament to the dedication and resilience of the scientists and engineers involved in the Venera project. Beyond the technical achievements, the Venera missions also had significant geopolitical and cultural implications. The success of the Soviet Union space program during the Cold War was a source of national pride and a symbol of the USSR's technological and ideological superiority. Each successful mission to Venus represented a triumph not only in the realm of science but also in the broader ideological struggle between the Soviet Union and the United States. The space race was a battle for global influence, and the Venera missions played a central role in this competition. While the Soviet space program is often overshadowed by NASA's achievements, the Venera missions remain a critical part of the history of space exploration. The technological advancements, scientific discoveries, and political implications of the Venera missions have had a lasting impact on our understanding of Venus and space exploration as a whole. These missions demonstrated the potential for interplanetary travel and paved the way for future missions to Venus, Mars, and beyond. Looking forward, the legacy of the Venera missions continues to inspire new generations of scientists, engineers, and explorers. The lessons learned from these missions, along with the advancements in technology and knowledge gained through decades of exploration, will guide future missions to Venus and other distant worlds. As space agencies around the world continue to push the boundaries of exploration, the spirit of the Venera program, characterized by resilience, persistence, and innovation, remains a guiding force in the ongoing quest to understand our solar system and the universe beyond.